even the most ancient of times, the punishment of exile has been regarded as one of the most severe. In Roman law, exilium denoted both voluntary exile and banishment as a capital punishment alternative to death. Deportation was forced exile and entailed the lifelong loss of citizenship and property. Relegation was a milder form of deportation, which preserved the subject's citizenship and property. There is also voluntary exile that can be seen as a form of protest by the person who claims it, or to avoid persecution and prosecution, or to avoid legal charges. And I was thinking to myself, we still have the death penalty, and it's a sensitive issue. But you notice nobody gets exiled anymore. And I was thinking, why did exile go away? Why don't we do that? So often when we have problems, I like to look to our past, look to history, because look, people are just people, and everything is just basically the same stuff happening all over and over again with more advanced technology. But the CEO of Coinbase may have hit upon a solution to many of our conflicts in the modern world today, and it looks like a form of voluntary exile. You can see on Revolver, it says, "Did Coinbase CEO just launch the anti-woke counter-revolution?" Woke capital is the dominant ideology of America's corporate and media elites. Seemingly every major corporation in America has either actively embraced or paid obedient lip service to the left's rhetoric supporting Black Lives Matter and Antifa, including the false narratives such as systemic racism. Neutrality is simply not an option, as evidenced by the mob's favorite slogan, "Silence is violence." And that's why woke capital is furious and terrified of Coinbase, a cryptocurrency tech startup whose CEO, Brian Armstrong, openly defied the woke totalitarianism corporate America has shoved down the throats of its employees and customers alike. And so what did he do? What was the heresy? What has the left up in arms? Because this is very interesting. The Coinbase CEO publicly stated his company will stay out of politics, both in public and in the workplace. He says he wants Coinbase to be laser focused on its mission because that is the way they can have the biggest impact on the world. Yeah, wow. Interesting. Like Microsoft would be best served by making good computers, not mandatory vaccines, because they're good at computers. That's what they do. That's how you will make the world better. And so the CEO comes out and says, "We won't debate causes or political candidates internally that are unrelated to work. We won't expect the company to represent our personal beliefs externally." Seems reasonable. You're going to be a professional. You're going to behave like a professional. He says, "We won't assume negative intent or not have each other's back." And this loss of giving people the benefit of the doubt. Perhaps they misunderstand an issue. You see, in today's politics, we always assume the worst about someone. They disagree with me. They must be, the isms and phobes and all that get thrown around. And he also says, "We won't take on activism outside of our core mission at work." Basically, when you're on the job, when you're working, we're going to be working. We're not going to have any other causes. We're not going to be focused on any sort of revolution or political activism. And this is probably because of the get woke, go broke phenomenon. We've seen the NBA, I think the finals, it's down something like 60%. This sort of politics, this top-down astroturfing of these activist movements is very unpopular with customers. And so, very reasonably, he says, look, we're going to be focused on our business. And this is the part that has really got them upset, and this is a move that is a stroke of genius. He not only said that here at work we're going to be professionals at work, he also said if any of his employees weren't for keeping politics and work separate, he'd pay them to go away. 6 months of severance pay to leave. Think about that. That's actually pretty good money. That's 6 months you could go lay on your couch and just hang out. But you see the damage that left-wing ideology is doing to business. You think, boy, we made a mistake hiring these Democrats. Let's just pay them to leave. And people hit the roof. This idea you can tell it's a good idea by who it triggers. And it's interesting, you have the Twitter so strongly opposes violence. Well, former Twitter CEO Dick Costolo responded to this. And first he called it an abdication of leadership. But then he went on to say he deserves to be executed if he doesn't change his ways. He tweets, "Me first capitalists who think you can separate society from business are going to be the first people lined up against the wall and shot in the revolution. I'll happily provide video commentary." Yeah, the revolution. This is an admission, one, that there's a revolution going on, and two, it isn't going to be peaceful. Think about that. But I was like, all right, this is interesting. This is like the idea of voluntary exile. And think of the effect it's going to have. Okay, first of all, one, you get rid of all these SJWs that just are hysterical. Well, those people aren't probably doing any work anyway. So you're getting rid of them on the cheap. They could be dead weight for 5, 10, 20 years at your company. Not to mention their active sabotage. Two, when they try to bring their politics into work, the company can turn to them and say, hey, we have an explicit policy. You leave that stuff out of here. And they really have to be quiet because they didn't take the money. And three, they can't really complain because it's like, hey, look, you were offered 6 months pay to leave. That's pretty good. Like I said, you can tell by the reaction, but the fact that the left just went nuts because of this proposal, that it was a pretty good idea. And I thought, why not extend this to the rest of the country? I mean, look at all these looters, look at all these rioters, look at all these academics with their Project 1619 and their systemic racism. And is America a racist country fundamentally founded on racism, that prospered on racism, and that continues to be racism, is unrepentant and unreformable, and it's impossible to get any better? Well, why not leave? If you believe that, why not leave? And as Americans, and this is a serious policy proposal, let's offer people whatever, I don't know what the average pay in America is, say it's $50,000. Why not offer people $25,000, 6 months average pay, or you can negotiate that, $25,000, and whatever you have earned through capitalism. You can sell your house, you got to leave the U.S., you got to get out of our markets, you got to get out of any businesses in the U.S., but you can sell all your stuff and you can leave and you can go wherever you want. Voluntary exile. And you can't come back. You can't come back, your children can't come back, and your grandchildren can't come back. You're done with America. If you hate America, if it's that irredeemably evil, we'll pay you to leave. And see, this is a great way of calling most people's bluffs, because the rhetoric they use is so hysterical. America isn't full of Nazis. Nazi means National Socialist. I mean, Bernie Sanders, by definition, is a Nazi, really. They just use the word Nazi to mean bad guy. They don't even know the meaning of the words. Words mean things. Of course, the dictionary will change the meaning of a word the same day if they can use it to make a conservative judge appear intolerant. But words do actually mean things. And so if you've hypnotized yourself into that America's such a bad place, or if you in any way want to infringe on your fellow citizens' God-given constitutional rights to free speech or to bear arms, why not? Why not pay them to leave? Why not? And look, there's no force. There's actually a benefit. And let's go to the city streets. Look at all these heroin addicts we've got in Seattle. Hey, we'll give you $25,000 to go live somewhere else and you can't come back. Let's get rid of them. Or say you think the criminal justice system is hopelessly biased. You get in trouble for, say, a nonviolent crime. Hey, you can do the time and stay in the country, or we'll pay you to go away and never come back. And look, no force. That's the whole brilliance of this idea. No force, and if you stay, you can't really complain. Because if these talking heads are going to go on whatever TV or give presentations and say, America is such a bad place. And it's like, well, why didn't you leave? Why didn't you take your money and the free money and leave? And if you want reparations, if you think my family was brought here against their will, well, now you can leave. And you can leave with what in the third world is a pretty good chunk of change. Think of all the problems you can solve with a voluntary exile. And it calls them out. It calls their bluff. It puts them on the spot. And this is why they hate it. This is why they react so violently, because they know the whole power of these words that the left uses is not because they're true. It's because people will pay almost anything to stop being called these words. But, hey, let's just make them go away. And just look in Seattle. We have a $1 billion investment firm to leave Seattle because of the riots. $1 billion. Boeing is shuttering a chunk of its business and sending it to South Carolina. That's a ton of money. $1 billion. It would have been well worth giving each one of those protesters $25,000 and saying you have to leave. To keep Boeing in Seattle, man, Boeing provides a lot of jobs. And you want to talk about the working class? I mean, every Boeing facility needs janitors. Every Boeing facility needs warehouse workers, forklift drivers, crane operators, mechanics, planners, schedulers, supervisors, management positions. All these beautiful jobs bringing money in that brings in tax revenue, gets houses built, makes the city beautiful, makes the city wonderful. And you're going to chase them out of there because you defund the police and let rioters run rampant? It's happening right now. And then they hire a pimp at $150,000 a year. Do you think that pimp carded every girl that he's ever pimped out and been like, yo, you got to be 18 years old? Yeah, I doubt it. I doubt it. Let's pay these people to go away. And if they don't want to take it, they don't have to take it. No force. But just merely extend the offer. Because I think you're going to find an awful lot of people love America a heck of a lot more than they're willing to admit. And they say, well, we want to change the system from within. And it's like, if we're irredeemably evil, why? Why not just go somewhere that's better then? Why not take the money, free money, and go away? Go where the laws are better. Go where the country is better. Go where the cities are safer. It's because you can't find it. Because it isn't there. Because despite everything the left says, because of our republic, not our democracy, our republic and our Constitution, the United States is still the greatest country in the world. And as both myself and other commentators have been pointing out, nationalism is rising across the West. That means certain policy positions that seem absurd or far-fetched today will seem very rational tomorrow. And I think we should really get behind this idea of voluntary exile.